Hi, this is Dr. Stephen with Outclick Magazine. Today we're excited to talk to Brett Karlin, who is the artistic director and conductor of our own Master Chorale of South Florida and also the Master Chorale of Tampa Bay. Brett is the music director, has been the music director of the Broward Symphony Orchestra. He's been the chorus master of Florida Grand Opera and also the director of Florida Singing Sons and the Seraphic Fire's Miami Choral Academy. Brett has a Bachelor of Arts in Voice from Florida State University and a Master of Music from the University of South Florida. Brett, you're a joy to work with and talk to. We have enjoyed hearing the concerts of Master Chorale, so we're excited to talk to you today. Welcome to the program.
Thanks, Stephen. Good afternoon. It's so good to be here with Outclick Magazine and with you too.
Thank you. How are you surviving COVID with all of the changes and being cooped up without the music? That's been personally difficult. How are you surviving okay?
I'm doing just fine. I enjoy being alone at home. I read a lot. I watch the Great British Bake Off. I listen to a lot of music. I play a lot of music at the piano. So I've certainly been doing okay. But I guess the biggest challenge for me as a musician and performing artist is the refilling of an emotional tank. You know, as musicians, we do a huge amount of administrative work and preparation and planning for a number of different projects. And then it's all worth it when we actually are on stage with other human beings and performing for a live audience. So it's been a little tough to be without that, of course, for about, 6, 7, 8 months now. But otherwise doing fine and very grateful to be healthy and safe.
Very good. We're excited to talk to you. I had the honor and privilege of hearing Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, not once, but twice last year, once from our own South Florida Symphony Orchestra and Master Chorale South Florida. I was sworn by both groups not to tell which one I liked better. My hands are tied for that. But how many people get to hear that live? I got to hear it twice. Your group did a phenomenal job with that. Why was that performed twice last year?
Well, last year and over the last 2 seasons, major symphony and choral organizations around the world have been celebrating Beethoven's 250th birthday. And so it's kind of a Beethoven anniversary year. And Beethoven's Ninth Symphony is a unique piece in that individual audience members who are not in regular attendance at concert halls, operas, musical theater venues will come out for Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. So it's a really cherished opportunity for performers. I mean, myself, I've prepared choruses for the work 8 or 9 times now. You know, this is a piece that I could conduct from memory. This is a piece that I know the ins and outs of, but it's always a joy to perform it because it's what Robert Shaw used to call the blue jeans concert. And what's meant by that is audience members who are in regular attendance at the concert hall and opera will come rather dressed up or rather formally, and there's a certain reverence to the concertized experience. But Beethoven's Ninth Symphony has the ability to connect with such a wider audience. So it's a joy to do a concert like that. And we had close to 1,000 people at our performance. And what's really unique is that we get to interact with people who are not regularly in our concert halls. So it's a responsibility, it's a stewardship, and the piece, although extraordinarily difficult and very taxing for the singers, is, it's like the musical manifestation of joy and brotherhood and humanity and cousinhood. So we loved it, and we were glad to have you there. And although I know you're not going to mention anything to your audiences, I know your true thoughts about which performance was better.
Now, don't get me in trouble with Miss Jacqueline over at the South Florida Symphony. We agreed on that before we went on live. You were not going to get me in trouble.
I can appreciate and respect that.
It's funny you mentioned the word joy because the Ninth Symphony became part of hymnology, as I think the hymn tune is called "Hymn to Joy," that we sing as "Joyful, joyful, we adore thee." So when they come hear it, that's the hymn tune that becomes part of hymnology and part of church history.
Exactly right. The genesis of the tune, as well as the text that the tune is set to, have really interesting histories associated with them. And of course, the simple contour, da 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 da, immediately makes it approachable to all of humanity. Now, of course, Beethoven then makes the tune quite complex and takes this, what begins as a relatively simple idea, and creates a double fugue and does amazing things with it. But the tune is designed to celebrate equality, brotherhood and cousinhood among all individuals, all genders, all religions, all creeds. And so it's really beautiful. And of course, the tune, as you mentioned, has been rearranged or has been repurposed to continue that sort of universal connection.
I have many, I don't want to get too much on that. I have many organ arrangements and it's a beautiful tune. Let's take a step back. Tell us about, I always say, pretend like there's one person watching that's never heard of Master Chorale South Florida. Tell us under non-COVID conditions, what the group is like, what kind of performances you put on, what kind of music, and give us a gist of what Master Chorale is, Brett.
Yeah, of course. So the Master Chorale of South Florida is a professional symphony chorus in the South Florida area. So we rehearse in Fort Lauderdale typically once a week between the months of August and May, and we present a host of different concerts. But what makes us unique in comparison with many other classical arts organizations in the area is that we are the voice of South Florida. And by that, I mean all of the members of the chorale are permanent residents in Palm Beach County, Broward County, and Miami-Dade County. We actually have had a singer who's been commuting from Key West and a singer who's been commuting from Naples in the past as well. So typically we have between about 120 and 150 members who are just singers on stage with us. And we present anywhere from about 4 to 6 or 7 concert series annually. Most of those concert series are what we call self-produced concert series. So you'll see me on stage as the conductor, conducting a large symphony chorus and an orchestra. Typically we have between 200 and 250 people on stage with us, and we do Mozart Requiem, Handel's Messiah, Brahms Requiem, and then we also do what we call our Pops concert series. So we'll do a Broadway potpourri concert that will involve a couple of guest artists who are actively singing on Broadway today. They get a 2-week break from whatever show they're involved in, and a swing comes in, and they come and make music with us. So we really do a variety of music, from Bach to Bernstein, from Beethoven to Brahms, to some more contemporary things from Dear Evan Hansen. But that's what we do. In addition to the self-produced concerts, we're also in demand for other orchestral organizations. So a few years ago, we were a hired chorus for South Florida Symphony's first Beethoven 9, and we were slated to do a Mozart Requiem with Palm Beach Symphony this year. But unfortunately, of course, due to COVID, we couldn't have 200 people on stage.
Mm-hmm. And then during your concerts, you have a lot of instrumentation, a lot of orchestral instruments, in addition to the choir, as you were saying, which for me, I love the blend of a large choir plus the orchestral instruments. It makes for just a beautiful, beautiful sound.
100%. I think that this is I value this experience and love it. Being a classical choral orchestral conductor is my absolute jams. A lot of people say that opera is the zenith of all classical music because it involves scenic and production elements, costuming elements. There's so much visual art in addition to choreography and classical dance and ballet, as well as singing, both choral and solo, and the orchestra in the pit. So that's sort of the projects that we are involved in, where there are many different elements and moving parts, and we're glad to be the home for that in South Florida.
One of the questions I always like to ask, what is your favorite part about conducting and directing? I've been a choral conductor, and there's nothing like seeing the faces of people and bringing them together. And then whether it's church music on Sunday and choir, it's just that wonderful feeling of when everything comes together. What's your favorite part about conducting, Brett?
That's tough because, conducting is extraordinarily challenging for many different reasons. You do so many different things in the gig, and it's rewarding as well for, almost an infinite number of reasons. But I guess I would have to say that since I was a little kid, I never really connected necessarily with pop contemporary music. I remember being in 5th, 6th, and 7th grade when kids bought CDs then, not Spotify subscriptions. And my brothers would encourage me to buy a Blink-182 CD or an Alanis Morissette CD or these sorts of things. And it never connected with me. And then eventually I found these music choice channels when there was an old cable company called Adelphia Cable or something like that. And I started listening to classical masterworks and opera, and immediately it filled me. I had the type of emotional response that my friends would have while listening to contemporary artists. And so from a pretty early age, I knew that this was something I wanted to be involved in. And I guess to say it more succinctly, although I've already talked a lot about the answer to the question, music provides us the ability to communicate intangible emotions more accurately and more specifically than the spoken word. So without a doubt, the most beneficial, the most rewarding, the most awesome in the true sense of the word part of being a conductor is that I get to communicate and experience emotions that are so profound they cannot be encapsulated by spoken word. And that's the closest thing to magic, to the divine, to religion for me in my personal life.
You teach, that's amazing. You teach a really, I call it an online class. It's called, is it Measure by Measure? Do I have that correct? Measure by Measure?
Yes, it's Measure by Measure. I think
Measure
some of
by
my
Measure.
past music theory and musicology professors might object to you calling it a class, but I know what you're talking about, of course.
It is your online almost class that you do on YouTube that does really what you do. It explains the musicality, the background of it. I had a lot of friends in college. I went to Asbury College, now Asbury University. And the music majors took a class called Form and Analysis, and they called it Form and A. And It was the most difficult class for them. And you really dissect the way you walk people through the music is beautiful. And it's such, you've really built an online curriculum, Brett. That's really fantastic, I think. That it's fascinating when I found it. And it reminded me of the majors talking about form and analysis and how you walk people through really a curriculum that I think you've built. If you want to, I'll stop talking and let you talk about your course and your videos.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I've certainly enjoyed putting them together. Our first Measure by Measure was in May of 2020. And it was kind of a quick online pivot to some digital content that we wanted to provide because we had to cancel a performance that was slated for that month. And typically when I describe the event, I call it a guided tour through choral orchestral masterworks. So our programs typically have a theme. So sometimes there will be several short pieces that all have a unifying theme. And then other of our programs will take a large work like Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, which is our next Measure by Measure, and I will take listeners on a guided tour. So opposed to kind of the standard concertize experience where a concertmaster walks out, tunes the orchestra, conductor walks out, and then you just go for 40 minutes straight before the intermission of classical music. What I really like to do both in live concerts and as well in Measure by Measure is take listeners on a guided tour through the piece so they know what to listen for, why it's important, and what the social and historical context of the composition of the piece was, and how that informs us as 21st century listeners.
It's on their YouTube. So I'm talking to Arthur next door. It's on the YouTube site. We might pull that up. But
Sure.
your passion in music, and one of the things when I go to the concerts is you give that kind of form and analysis talk at the concerts, and it's an educational journey beyond that. And your passion for music really shows in those talks.
Yeah, it was my inspiration, without a doubt, with the young people's concerts with the New York Phil and Leonard Bernstein. You can get them on DVD now, or certainly you can purchase some digital editions of them. But Leonard Bernstein is a musical and American hero and treasure. And so he did a series of those lectures. So without a doubt, although I'm quite proud of the idea, he was the inspiration for it, as well as many other teachers and conductors who assist audiences in understanding classical music.
It's great curriculum. I'm going to use the word curriculum because it's like a class, and that's a compliment.
I appreciate that.
It's very good. And recently, too, you've had a performance that you guys did. I call them performances in a tube because everyone's in their little squares. They're Hollywood Squares version that you did. If you want to talk about maybe the creation of that, what that was like to create something virtually and then produce that, Brett.
Yes, certainly. So the official term in the choral or classical music industry is called virtual choir. And what's implied by a virtual choir is that several individuals, in our case, 100 individuals, all record themselves singing a specific part, the soprano part, the alto part, the tenor, or the bass part to a piece. Then all of those individual video audio recordings are sent to, in our case, a production company called Arts Laureate. Arts Laureate is a premier production company based in Washington, D.C., and they do excellent high-level work. And so after all of our singers record their individual tracks, a team of video and audio engineers and producers then work on each individual track and then master and mix all of them together to create a product that creates the illusion of a live performance with all singers in attendance.
We're going to pull that up. That's the YouTube link. I'm talking to Arthur, so we're going to pull that up. We're going to pull that up and play that for people because it's phenomenal to watch. And it's if it's as difficult as it looks to pull off, I'm sure it was a lot of work. So we're gonna blow that up.
It certainly was, and this piece is unique. It was a particular challenge for our singers because it's in Russian or Old Church Slavonic, and so the name of the piece is Bogorodice Dievo, and it's by Sergei Rachmaninoff. and it comes from a larger a cappella work called the All Night Vigil. This is functional service music or functional sacred music that would have accompanied a longer service and evening or all night vigil. So this represents just about 2.5 minutes or so of a much larger a cappella choral work that is widely considered to be the greatest composition of Russian choral music ever.
Okay. All right. If Arthur's got it, we're going to pull this up and play it. It's really very good. Excited to premiere it. Let's see the audio. I'll put you on the spot and ask you a question. What do you think will become of the ethnographical studies in 10 years when they talk to musicians and ask them what it was like to live through COVID? What do you think the researchers will find? Because watching that makes me want to ask every one of those people, what are you going through right now?
I'm not too honest to be sure because we're living in it right now. The categorization of a certain time period, the description or stylistic or cultural elements are always codified post experiencing whatever it is. So I think it's kind of difficult to say now. I will say that I'm really glad that Master Chorale of South Florida is an organization who has embraced creating this sort of digital content that I think will become artifacts of this time.
Yes.
So I think every organization, whether it's a for-profit business, a nonprofit cultural arts institution, we will certainly have these artifacts that represent this time that we're all living in. But as far as how it will be seen 10 years from now, classified as categorized, I'm not sure. I just know that I'm glad to be a part of it.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but that came to mind.
That's fine.
I watched that because in 10, 20 years, we will watch this content and people will study it. And and ask people the questions and reflect on it. You have an upcoming performance, November 20th. People can still register to be part of the performance. Is that correct?
Yeah, this
Tell
one
us
is
about
not.
that.
This one is not a traditional performance in that individuals will come to a live performance on November 20th, but instead will be treated to a live virtual premiere, sort of in the style of that virtual choir that we just watched.
Okay.
So a couple of years ago, the Master Chorale of South Florida began an annual commission fund, more than a couple of years ago, in fact. And so every single year we commission a new piece of choral music, sometimes choral orchestral music, from a living composer. We always invite the composer to come and do a week-long residency. They're present for the premiere. So we've had a few of these projects, and now we're gearing up for a premiere with Jake Runistad. Jake Runistad, for those not involved in the choral field, is the closest thing to a choral rock star right now as far as a composer of choral music in particular. He writes very thoughtful, socially progressive, and inclusive music that always has not only a beauty and joy in it, but has an important analysis, an important message, or there's always a goal. And in the case of several pieces, including a piece called Please Stay, has a call to action. And so we commissioned Jake and got on his calendar a couple of years ago. And in January, he gave us a delivered piece. This was pre-COVID times. We were supposed to premiere it at this big choral conference in Miami in June, which of course was canceled. And so now the organization has pivoted a bit. And now we are hosting a virtual choir world premiere that is a 3-week choral institute or choral initiative. And so individuals from all over the world can join us, largely choral singers or singers who have music reading ability and that sort of skill. And as of right now, we're close to 400 singers who have registered to join us.
Wow.
And we have 5 countries and 23 states represented. Wow.
So a silver lining to all of the kind of disaster, for lack of a better word, of 2020 of all of this is that you've got singers from all over the world that we may not have had a part of, and B, the platform has created a way for people nationally and internationally to experience the music of Master Chorale.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, there's maybe a silver lining to everything, not something we ideally would have created, but it may have opened the doors for some people to experience and be part of Master Chorale in a new way.
Certainly. Well, and even in my personal life, the most trying, difficult, or kind of experiences that involve adversity are the ones that allow us to grow the most, learn the most. And there's certainly opportunities to be had or to be made during this time, although they're quite difficult. And I can appreciate that for many individuals, finding that motivation, energy, and drive, it's challenging 7-8 months into it.
It's challenging. The musicians we have all talked to it's been difficult being without that concert energy. But yours is coming November 20th, 2020. So we want people to put that on their calendar. And then you've got something in the works, is your Home for the Holidays, which is also coming. But just people kind of stay tuned for that, I believe.
Yeah, on December 12th, 2020, we'll be doing a Home for the Holidays event live stream. And so what that means is essentially we'll be bringing the Master Chorale to you at home and trying to set that holiday spirit, holiday season, which it can't be the holidays unless you have a choir singing Silent Night with Candles. It's not the holiday unless you hear a choir sing Joy to the World and all that stuff. I know a lot of people equate the holidays with Mariah Carey at like shopping malls and things of that nature. But for me as a choral musician, without a doubt, it's not the holidays until I hear Carol of the Bells, Joy to the World, Hark the Herald, Angels We Have Heard on High, and those sorts of tunes.
Well, we look forward to that concert. I know you've got that planning and in the works. And so we remind people to check out your all's website for more information on that. I miss the choral concerts and I miss everything going on. It's been very difficult to not hear all that. So it's really been a joy to have you on the program. Brett, thank you for taking time to come and talk to us. I always round out with 2 final questions. One is there anything we didn't cover that you wanted to cover?
I guess one thing that I would say is in the current pandemic situation, artists all over the country, and in particular, artists who are just beginning their career, who are in pre-professional programs, or who have just graduated with master's degrees or other advanced degrees, this is an unreal, almost unnavigable situation for them. I'm thinking of many of my friends and colleagues who are professional singers who make their living singing at regional opera houses and with regional symphony orchestras. I'm also thinking about instrumental friends and colleagues of mine who may not have a salaried position at an orchestra, but they string together dozens of gigs with many different orchestras and choral ensembles like the Master Chorale throughout a year to make a living and make their life work. Without a doubt, those individuals who do not have the safety, comfort, and security of a salaried position with an existing organization that has a responsible board and a budget and can apply for relief loans and relief funding, if you can do anything to reach out to those individuals, whether you know them personally or not, if you just Google artist relief funds, you have to understand that this will have effects that will permeate in the classical music industry for decades to come, because there are individuals who were just starting their career and then they had to slam the brakes. And the Metropolitan Opera is doing great things, but they're live streaming artists at the top of their game. And so individuals have to think about local artists in their own city and town and individuals who are in the early stages of their career.
My second question dovetails on that I always ask people, and that's, what words of encouragement can you give people during these difficult and unprecedented times?
Breathing and relaxation, guided relaxation exercises. I don't mean sitting by the pool with a drink, but focused, effortful relaxation exercises do wonders, especially when you're acclimating to a new environment. And we are all doing things that we don't want to do. I don't think there's anyone not in that situation. And I would certainly suggest for everyone, and it's something that I practice in my personal life and have for about a decade or so now, making time not just for self-care that involves washing your face and drinking enough water, but rather self-mental, emotional, and psychological care that just involves searching YouTube for guided relaxations, autogenic trainings, and progressive relaxations are unbelievably helpful.
One of the things they taught us at Asbury was to take care of your mind, your body, and your spirit, and all three of those. And from a choral conductor giving us advice on breathing and breath control, how appropriate. How appropriate to end it. I'm going to give you a challenge. We talked about this before. Fire up the Rafati. You all sing at Coral Ridge Presbyterian Church. They have a beautiful Rafati organ. When it was built in the 70s, it was the only Italian-built organ in America. It was built by Diane Bish. We're going to have a conversation about that some other time, and we could probably talk for an hour. But as an organist, that organ has a lot of history. So fire up that Rafati sometime. I want to hear it.
Most definitely.
Choir.
We did a full Messiah with organ only accompaniment with that instrument, a Duraflay Requiem with it as well. So we featured it in a number of concerts, but boy, that is a world-class instrument that is one of the best kept hidden secrets in South Florida.
It's beautiful with the festival trumpets and the rear organ and everything. So we'll talk all about the Rafati at Coral Ridge sometime. That's a fascinating instrument for me. Brett, thank you so much for joining us. You're a joy to talk to. Your passion and knowledge of music is so evident in everything you do. And the Master Chorale is lucky to have you. So if you need anything from us, please reach out. Arthur is going to put up all of your links to Master Chorale, your Facebook, and then, of course, your Measure by Measure series is on your YouTube site. And we're going to put up our links as well. And if you want to stay connected to us, you can text OCQ to 22828 to sign up for our email list. Brett, thank you for today. And as I'm telling everybody, hang in there. We'll get through this together. And we look forward to more from Master Chorale of South Florida.
Thank you, Stephen. And thanks for everything you do with OutClick.
Thank you.